Super Tuesday to you, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're getting out there voting, because if you don't vote, then you don't get to complain. Okay, enough of that. That's as much politics as you'll ever hear me talk about. We've got bigger things to go over right now, and one of those things is this. How many of you have tried using treats to train your dog to no avail? They don't want your treat. So then you move on to maybe you just want to have a pet. Maybe I can just pet you. Maybe that'll work. That doesn't work. And you try chatting to them. Nope, not having it. Break out a ball. Oh, wait, I'm way too lazy to chase a ball. So what do you do if all of that doesn't work? Your dog simply does not want to do the behavior, does not want to learn it, doesn't even want to comply with it. Well, let me set the foundation right off the bat real quick. First of all, okay, again, this is my artwork. It's not a big blue apple. It's supposed to be a brain, okay? There's a reason why I'm a dog trainer. Okay, this is a brain. Food is the most important thing that your dog can acquire. Same thing with you. I don't care what your occupation is. I don't care what goals you have in life. If you don't eat, you're no longer going to have an occupation and you'll never reach those goals. Life at a fundamental level is an exchange of energy for more energy. That has to get done. So food has a huge, huge survival value. Now, when we offer a treat, for most dogs, that's why I personally do use treats. You see me use treats with Captain. But when I'm really knuckling down on a behavior, anything that's got a little bit of a sticking point, maybe it's a particular subject, so to speak, that Captain's not doing so well with, or any other dog I'm working with, then I'll actually pull the treats away. So here, I'm kind of building this. It's not all bad if your dog doesn't want a treat. Reason being is, this blue part up here, that's all your dog is thinking about. I kid you not. You break out a treat, 3/4 of the brain right then is thinking about that unconditioned stimulus. The food. I want the food. And only a wee part of the brain is thinking about that neutral stimulus to start with, the word sit. If your dog's never heard it before, it's a meaningless sound being uttered from you. Sit. Might as well be scuba nog. I have no clue what that is. But only over a period of time of predictability and consistent presentation will it finally achieve your goal of having a conditioned response, meaning I see food, I may even have an unconditioned response. I talked about that yesterday. I may start whining, I may start getting really excited because I want the food. So therefore, if I say sit, and sit means nothing, but there's the presentation of food, I make the dog sit, then give the food, then over a period of time, I can achieve a conditioned response. But I have found that takes much longer to do that because the animal is so focused on getting the food, not actually doing the sit. Do you follow me on that? It's no different than asking a small child, here, do your homework. And if you finish your homework, you can have that cupcake lying right there. Have you seen a child do this before? They're working on the homework and staring at that cupcake. Doing a little bit more and then looking at that cupcake. And then finally they're reaching for the cupcake and not doing their homework. Sometimes rewards actually get in the way of training. And why does that happen? How does that happen? Well, when you're first looking at training, you always have to consider, how can I gain my subject's attention? Then what can I do to motivate them? And again, as always, are you smart enough? Are you old enough? Are you capable enough to learn what it is I'm trying to teach? Always being very fair about that. So when it comes to, if you have an animal who doesn't want to respond to a treat or a pet or a chat or just time with you, well, then you're going to have to come up with something else. You really are. And when you do that, you need to think, how important is the training? How important is it that your dog learn what it is you're trying to teach? Roll over versus come when called. You need to prioritize your training. First and foremost, have a game plan. What is it that I'm trying to teach my dog to do? And make sure that you work on those things that are very important. Probably safety issues, quality of life issues. Those are things to work on first. And then you need to always ask yourself a question, because from your dog's point of view, is what you're offering me worth working for? Is it even worth it? Think about it. Have you ever heard the old saying, the effort exceeds the reward? You finally reach a point of diminishing returns. This happens a lot with treats because we dog lovers, and I'm certainly one of those, captains will get a treat. At least he'll consider it a treat. I mean, like a piece of potato chip, some cheese. I'll share a French fry with him. I share all sorts of stuff with Captain and the rest of our dogs. And we do it all the time. Why? Because I like to do that. I just do. I see the joy that they have in getting that and the efforts that they'll go through. Heck, if I hold this piece of cheese long enough over Captain's head, he'll go through his entire resume. I kid you not. He'll sit, he'll lay down, he'll roll over, he'll run around me, he'll do everything trying to get that cheese. But again, I'm trying to get him to focus on one single thing. So what can happen here real quickly is that, wow, I kind of get treats when I'm not doing anything. And I certainly get fed twice a day this really tremendous food. So is walking with you for like a mile, having to remain by your side, or breaking off my pursuit of a squirrel, is that stuff worth the treat? Think about it. Okay, so is it worth working for? What about the pet? How many times are you petting your dog throughout the day in those non-training moments? Non-training moments. And how much time do they get to spend with you during those non-training moments? And how many times have you heard me say that too much of a good thing is a bad thing? Think about anything in your life. Too much of a good thing turns out to either be a bad thing or it becomes meaningless. You literally habituate to it. Okay, so fellas, with your girlfriend or your wives, next time you see them, tell them how nice they look. And then tell them that about 3 times a day for the next 30 days. Do you think the impact of how nice you look is going to be the same on day 30 as what it was on day 1? I don't know if that's a good example or not. It just kind of came to my head at the moment. But you do need to think about that because, again, is it worth working for? So if it's not, and your dog doesn't want the treats, you need to now ask yourself another question. Do they not want it? Or are they too anxious to take it? Because one of the hallmarks of the stress response is not just a quick mobilization of energy, but to be able to do that, you have to shut down digestion. You have to incur the inhibition of the storage of further energy. Use all the energy you have to get out of the situation that you're in. If the training that you're trying to do with your dog is too stressful for that dog, meaning I can't get it, and I really want to do something else, then they may be high enough out of that calm zone, high enough in that arousal column, that they're just not hungry. I don't want the food. I don't really feel like chasing the ball. And you're starting to really worry me. Keep an eye on that, guys. Keep an eye on that. Watch it. You've got to be able to study your dog. You have to. That's why I love it when Dr. Franz de Waal wrote in his book, Are We Smart Enough to Know How Smart Animals Are? He wrote that before you begin to embark upon shaping a behavior with a particular animal, modifying a behavior with a particular animal, you need to spend a few thousand hours just observing the natural, spontaneous behavior of that animal. You got to know what it is you're working with. You have to ask yourself many questions anytime there's a problem. I've said it over again. What's the proximate cause of the problem? Ask yourself that. Take a big old guess at it. But make sure you do, because there's a stress side, an anxious side, and there's always the I'm just not motivated side. You know, what you asking me to run 100 yards back to you is not worth the treat. If you do feel it's that, I just don't want it. I'd rather do something else than what it is that you're trying to teach me. Then you may have to force it. You may have to. And that's something that you don't want to do that. Well, then you get to live with your problem in training. You get to live with an untrained dog. I've owned many dogs that did not want food. They didn't care a hoot about a ball. Forget that. Even my pet, when I would pet them, it was like I was doing it for my benefit. They sit there and look at me and go, "You feeling better now?" All right, that was good. What do you do with that? And yet you need that thing to come to you. You need to be able to walk it. You need to get off of people. What do? Okay, well, if you don't want my pet, you don't want my treat, you don't want the ball, you really don't care much about spending time with me at this moment, then I'm going to have to force this issue. Because you're living in my world, I'm a human, and I'm in this world, and you're a four-legged animal living in my world, and part of my responsibility is to ensure that you are trained so that you don't cause any sort of issues with other people and their dogs, or just other people in general. I have a responsibility. I have to be a good zookeeper. And it's important to me that you be able to do certain behaviors. So you may have to force it. And force it may be, hey, I tell you what. Okay, so I'm going to start walking here on this leash. And in a second here, I'm going to have Joshua demonstrate with the dog that we have in here. The dog's name is Brock. And you'll see that we don't always use treats after every single behavior. Why? Because I need you to focus on the behavior, not so much on the treat. Focus more on me, not so much on my treat bag. And also, we run into the same problem. There are dogs that simply just do not want anything we have to offer from a positive standpoint. So therefore, on goes leash, on goes collar, we walk. Dog goes, "No, I'm not going with you." Okay? But I'm going to go anyway. And we do. And they go through what I call the Shakespearean effect. And I've got a video coming up here soon called Feigned Helplessness. It's a very natural response to certain conditions. And so the animal goes, "No, I'm not going, I'm not going." Well, we go anyway. I'll tell you what, here's your little problem. You can stay back there. You can be pitching there for 11 fit, kind of like a child doing the noodle on the floor in the middle of the grocery store. Or you can get up and come with me. Either way, nature will sometimes force her hand. We force that hand. So guess what? All the air you want is up here. It's right here. Come get it. Come on up here. Otherwise, it's going to be very uncomfortable for you just to remain back there. And then when the animal does come up, yeah, good dog. Because occasionally they will want the treat. Sometimes it's just a matter of even finding what treat works. I've told you before, I've used everything. I don't think there's anything I haven't used. I've used Vienna sausages, potted meat, cheeseburgers, chicken, cooked 90 different ways, spaghetti, meatballs. I use everything. As long as it's not dangerous to the dog, I'll try it. And sometimes you strike gold. You just do. But other times, hey, you got to come with me. I'm going. And when you catch up here, good boy. Good girl. There you go. Bam, bam, bam. Go through your operant conditioning, all that sort of stuff. We'll talk more about that in future videos and get it done. I remember years and years ago, just several decades ago, I had a good friend, Eric Kaltenbach, who's no longer on this planet with us. But when he would train, he was a big-time competitor over in Germany, competing in all sorts of European dog sports. And one of the ways that he got past this problem was he simply put the amount of food that the dog was to be given that day to sustain the animal's health was in a treat bag. So if you want to eat, you need to come. If you want to eat, you need to lay down. If you want to eat, you need to walk with me. If you want to eat, you need to go fetch that dumbbell. And next week, I'm going to be doing a series on clicker training. Clicker training. And that was a theory and a process adopted from the marine mammal training world. Training big orcas, training sea lions, training dolphins. And I've had years of experience doing that. And I'm here to tell you right now Back in the 80s, if you went to SeaWorld and you wanted to see the 2 o'clock show with Shamu, well, first of all, there were like 9 Shamus in the back. They just had different names back there. Alice, Nick, Pump, so on and so forth. And if Nick was slated to do the 2 o'clock show and Nick didn't do the 2 o'clock show, well, Nick didn't get to eat. Someone else that was hungry gets to eat. And maybe by the evening or the next day, that particular marine mammal wants to eat. And that's the way it was in the United States Navy as well. So we'll go over that next week when we talk about clicker training and what can be done to help motivate animals to do jobs that we simply need them to do. And again, this is all natural. It goes back to nature. If a wolf is hungry enough, they'll get up off the ground and they'll finally go hunting. They'll move on. Okay, so now let's go ahead and just demonstrate a little bit with Brock here. So over here I've got Joshua, and he's just moving Brock along. And even though Joshua has a treat bag on, he's not going to use the treat bag. Let's go ahead and just demonstrate walking with him. Just take off. So there goes Joshua. There you go. See, he just took off. He just moved. And now when Brock catches up next to him, there we go. He can talk to him for a second. Point at him. Good. Always talk to your dog. They know your voice from a million voices. And through enough time and enough experience, enough exposure to that voice, they will learn, like they learn with other canine vocal signals, what's a growl, what's a whine, what's a bit of a mew that they do, what is a bark, what do all these sounds mean? And there we go. And Joshua's doing all this without a treat. But the tool that he's using is a slip leash right here. And it serves the purpose of not allowing the animal to escape out of it, because you don't want your dog to become loose, especially if it's not trained to come when called. But it also applies a little bit of pressure, and we've gone over that in previous videos. And the dog has a choice. Okay, you can either take the pressure, or you can avoid the pressure and make it go away by coming up next to me. When the pressure comes on, that's a cost. When the dog finally makes the pressure go away, he's now next to Joshua, and all of a sudden, there's a benefit. And it can just be something like a play, just a little bit right there, just not enough to drive the dog crazy or get him out of training focus. And that's what sometimes treats can do. They can create a condition which the animal really, that's all they think about, is just the treat.
Petting is this guy's. I mean, if you pet him, he starts to get wiggled.
Now, as Joshua said, petting is the anti-training tool for him because he goes absolutely berserk. And we kind of lose him for a little bit. You get, the train just derails and you have to get back on the track. To be very productive, make sure whatever you use, whatever you finally find works, that you don't overdo it. Again, keep this in your head always, always, always. Too much of a good thing or even a bad thing is a bad thing. It is. Everything is in moderation. Everything is balanced. All right, I'm going to hand the microphone over here to Joshua real quick because he wants to talk about how they train service dogs, search and rescue dogs that were simply not motivated to go search in the beginning. How did they build that drive, that motivation to go search?
Yes, so sometimes the dog just has to be taught that if they work for it, then the food is given. So a lot of issues that you may be dealing with if your dog doesn't want the food may simply just be because I've never had to work for food. So a lot of these young dogs who kind of look at food and they go, oh, well, I'm going to get fed later anyway, so I'm going to go play instead. Teaching them that they can work for the food will sometimes motivate them for the food. But food will motivate a dog for anything. As you said, if the wolf gets hungry, it's going to get motivated to go, therefore, hunt. If a dog gets hungry, it's going to. Every dog is food motivated, but it's what does it motivate them to do? Some dogs, if you pulled treats out, they're motivated to jump up and get the food, and they're not motivated to do the actual task that you're wanting them to do because they can't think straight. So these dogs who weren't necessarily motivated to go search for things, what we would do is their daily food amount. Either A, it came out of a treat bag, so they had to work for it. Sometimes they wouldn't get a lot of food out of the treat bag because they didn't know that they had to work for it. So we would take the rest of the remaining food at the end of the day and we would throw it into a puzzle pit. Now, not a puzzle toy. A lot of those dogs will figure that thing out in no time at all. we would have trash. We'd have newspaper, milk jugs, cans, all types of things, everything that was safe for dogs, but they would have to search for the kibble inside of all of that ruckus. Day 1, day 2, they maybe found 3 or 4 pieces of kibble before they gave up. By day 3 or day 4, they found every single piece of kibble in that trash. And they learned, if I put just a little bit of effort into this task at hand, then I get a big reward for it. So it kind of started to create what I call, maybe unofficially, is search drive. They just have a ability within them to learn that looking for something or going after something, working for it, results in the benefit. So,
very good. And that's the biggest statement there is, again, did I even know I have to work for it? So many dogs are fed, we'll definitely be talking about it on a series I'm going to run on canine nutrition, or overfed. The more I get to eat, well, maybe someone's trying to train me right after a meal. Bad time to train right after a meal. I really don't want the treat. And then again, if you pet all the time, well, is it worth working for? Keep in your mind, again, these things here. What can I do to gain my dog's attention? What do I have to do to motivate it? Try to put yourself in your dog, inside your dog. If I were a dog, and I know I get to eat twice a day, that's become predictive information. I know exactly when that occurs, and I'll bug the daylights out of anyone if they don't feed me exactly when it's supposed to occur. Is that worth it? Is it? And my genetics is such that I don't like to pursue things. I don't have a high prey drive. I don't. Welcome to artificial selection. Some animals don't. Petting? I can live without it. What do you do? What do you do? You have to motivate them. And there's a million different ways. Eric Kaltenbach, if you want to earn your food, just like you did with the search dogs. Now they realize, okay, rules have changed. There's no more food bowls on the floor. I now have to go search for the food. How do I search for the food? When the guy says heel, I need to search for that left leg or that right leg. When the guy says come, I need to search for them and go to them. They start learning. So as Joshua said, there's no dog that you can't train without using treats or food. At some point, you will cross that line. They want the food. They're not going to starve themselves to death. They will do whatever it takes to get that food. May not at the level that you're looking for. And then eventually you want to throw in some cost just because you want it to be reliable. And you might not always have food on you. And you work your way through it. So there you go. A little bit of a long video today, just kind of cover so many things to cover when someone says that. But we'll chop this thing up and we'll take some parts of it and turn it into future videos just so you can go back and connect all the dots. And the neat thing about what we're doing, even though we kind of jump around a little bit because we're really trying to answer viewer questions and really get those out there so they can proceed on with their training. The thing is that when you finally go on our YouTube page, all of these get kind of put in a catalog, kind of like an index. If you're looking for dogs who won't train with a treat, there you go. There will be the 3 or 4 videos that kind of address that situation. It's really cool how that thing gets done. Okay, guys, we're out of here. Again, find something that motivates your dog. Find something that motivates you to motivate your dog. You're no different. Get motivated. Because I'm telling you what, owning a trained dog, it is absolutely true. It's been proven in science. You will live longer. They will live longer. It is worth working for. So get to work. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.